Well, here's the bit that nobody's talking about. Australia brought streaking to the world. Adventure World's weight policy is risky at a time of COVID kilos. So while the rest of the country and the entire world is getting back to normal, WA is going to have no flights at the airport.
The streaker is crowdfunding.
This whole thing was pretty half-assed. He didn't even get his kit off properly. And what's with the ripped Bonds undies? Did that happen when he was getting over the fence, or does he just need new dacks? If you were ever going to spring for some new Armani's, David Beckham style, it would be when you're nuding up in front of 61,000 people, surely.
How did he even do it?
Well, here's the bit that nobody's talking about. This guy, Abra Bowl, was originally sitting in a seat that was on the complete opposite side of the ground to where he jumped the fence. He was escorted out of that area, along with a couple of mates, by security in the first half of the game. It was right there in front of me. I saw the whole thing.
You finally got a ticket.
Channel 7 box. I do have to wash Kerry Stokes' car for the rest of the year, though. So Abra is ejected from here. Then at three-quarter time, he runs onto the oval from around here. So what's happened in between? What did security actually do with him?
To be fair, they brought him down pretty quickly.
Yeah, that was TRG spec. Have you noticed life expectancy of a young woman with a kid off is a lot longer than a bloke with his chopper flapping in the breeze? That gets shut down very, very quick. We shouldn't have been surprised that this happened, though, at the biggest sporting event the state's ever seen. Australia brought streaking to the world. Twickenham, Southwest London, 1974. Australian stockbroker Michael O'Brien runs stark bollock naked onto the pitch during a rugby match between England and France. He was dared 10 quid. That's worth about £100 today, or about 180, 190 Australian dollars. Would you get your kid off on a cold day in front of 80,000 pissed up English rugby fans for $180? Only a drunk Australian would have taken that bet. And thus Mike O'Brien started a rich tradition of pissed bogans disrupting sporting events around the world.
Got to be a better way to get your 5 minutes of fame. Hey, that last guy wouldn't make it into Adventure World.
Never mind the rides. The real terror happens before you strap yourself in, finding out if you're skinny enough to get on the ride. The park is under fire for fat-shaming its customers. Apparently some contraption there, called the Abyss, can only handle 8 people who weigh a combined 600 kilograms. Any more than that, and there's a problem. 600 divided by 8 is 75 kilograms. They have scales that flash red or green and signs warning against being disappointed. Personally, I'm disappointed they can't spell. This is a risky policy for Adventure World because it's going to be a ghost town if only people under 75 kegs are allowed on the rides. The whole business model is predicated on large people consuming large amounts of overpriced greasy food while sliding into a shallow pool that's 20% urine. Imagine if they applied the 75 kilo rule to the Royal Show. Nobody would get on anything. Adventure World's going after salad dodgers now. A couple of years ago, it went after people in slutty swimsuits. Said it wouldn't tolerate G-string bikinis because it was a family-friendly environment. Even provided diagrams of what was acceptable and what wasn't, and went to great lengths to say it applied the rule to women and men equally. Adventure World's weight policy is risky at a time of COVID kilos. 1 in 3 of us have got fatter during lockdown.
Mark McGowan made a joke about Clive Palmer and that bloke.
Yeah, it came after the West Australian depicted him as Dr. Evil when he threatened to sue us for $30 billion.
Well, I can think of another Austin Powers character.
I reckon Palmer's lawyering up again to have another crack at our border because there's now a lot of inconsistency around. By the time we wake up on Wednesday morning, Victorians won't get into WA for love nor money because we're going to deem them extreme risk. This is going to be on the same day the Victorian government is easing restrictions because the state will have hit the 80% first vax threshold. New South Wales, also deemed extreme risk by WA, is preparing to open up as well. And this is happening as ScoMo says we might be able to travel overseas before Christmas.
It's contradictory.
It's a complete mess. Qantas has just announced it's canning its London-Perth flight until at least April. The wharfies at Freo Port were on strike on the weekend, and there's more to come, and at 1 minute past midnight on Wednesday morning, the roads and everything else will be sealed from anyone coming from Australia's two most populous states. So while the rest of the country and the entire world is getting back to normal, WA is going to have no flights at the airport, no boats at the port, and the road shut at the border. This is getting a little North Korea hermit kingdom, and Dear Leader seems to love it. He wrote a piece in today's paper which should have been about the grand final, but he couldn't help himself from reminding us just how good we have it. He asked, "Did you pack bars and pubs throughout our heaving city where we are able to meet up and enjoy each other's company? Did you watch from home, safe and secure? A very different scenario to what is sadly playing out across the globe."
People are frothing over State Daddy.
Some people are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Winners are grinners.
Yeah, you might not be smiling after the next High Court challenge, though. A lot has changed since November when the court ruled against Palmer. We now have a vaccine, for example, which will throw a particular section of the Australian Constitution back into the spotlight. Section 92 of our Constitution states, "Trade, commerce and intercourse among the states, whether by means of internal carriage or ocean navigation, shall be absolutely free."
Intercourse. Are you actually going to talk about this with a straight face?
Yes, because in this context, intercourse means the free movement of people and business and trade. Everyday life across the country, across borders. Section 92 is the most challenged part of our Constitution. It's been to the High Court more than 100 times. It's confusing because of the word absolutely. If you applied this literally, it would mean we couldn't stop fruit coming from over the border to stop agricultural diseases, for example. So High Court judges, knowing this, have chosen to interpret the Constitution as meaning it bans laws that give one state an economic advantage over another, or protects people in one state from competition from people in another. And this is where McGowan could be more exposed than old mate Abra. His hard border could be seen to be benefiting caravan park owners in regional WA from what some might say is a superior tourism experience in far north Queensland.
So we should be prepared for intercourse with Clive Palmer.
Palmer is desperate for intercourse with us. Mark McGowan, on the other hand, hates intercourse. The mere thought of prolonged and robust intercourse terrifies our Premier. Very worried about catching disease. Josh Frydenberg, on the other hand, gagging for intercourse. He wants it and he needs it. Because more intercourse means more business, which means more tax. And Josh needs to pay the bill for all the JobKeeper payments he doled out last year. I told you I could say intercourse that many times without laughing. I'm Ben Harvey. For more update, click the subscribe button below.